Oh, yeah. 8:48. Yeah. I slept with the window open and I don't remember closing it this morning. Yeah. But it's closed. It's as if somebody had gone into the room and closed it without my knowledge. Quite often, when you think about these individuals in the family and how they get paid, they get paid to terrorize. Yeah. Now, it might not seem important to you, but I overslept. And quite often, when it's cold in the room and you wake up, it really motivates you to get out of bed so that you can shut the window. Now, I just wanted to really talk to you about the contempt of the court. Yes. I've documented many of the judges in the United Nations and which of them are going to hear the case of the United States issuing a dissolution of marriage where there was no public record of the settlement conference setting hearing. There was no dissolution of marriage to myself. Yeah. There was no notice of court hearings. Yeah. And then there's this idea of the stipulation and order from Guam regulating the court's contact. Yeah. Between myself, my wife, and my kids. Yeah. Now, yesterday I was looking at some pictures of an individual that looks like Heidi. Yes, she's a look-alike. Yeah, but it's not her. And the thought was you're just going to manufacture these false witnesses. Yes. So that they can accuse honest Americans of crimes. Right. And then I'm not going to be using the actual court of the United Nations to be able to get a dissolution of marriage. But then I went online. I had an extra hour last night. And I see that somebody had doctored the photos of myself in the yearbook. Yes. And I thought, well, there you go. Right now. See, it's just a form of communication. It's called terrorism, domestic terrorism. And it's not just happening in this nation, it's happening in other nations of the world. Yeah. Now, this international organization called the United Nations, yes. In the United States, we have what's known as the contempt of court. Yeah. hmm Something my wife didn't experience. There are broadly two categories of contempt: being disrespectful to legal authorities in the courtroom, or willfully failing to obey a court order. Yes. I've had court orders issued against me since July 8th of 2011. Yeah. Without any jurisdiction of law. I had the court order reissued because of the false accusation of violating the fraudulent court order. I had the court order modified without me receiving the actual documentation. Yes. That the court said was necessary to modify the pre-existing court order. Yeah. And then I had a dissolution of marriage issued. Yes. Where I didn't get any notice of court hearings. I think we're going to need to bring the United Nations in. We're going to need to go through all the various judges of the United Nations. Yes. In fact, we're going to go through every contribution to the existence of the United Nations. Yes. Since they were the League of Nations. See, I'm going to be suing today. Yes. This domestic terrorism where the family thinks it's funny to doctor photographs. Yes. They manufacture lookalikes. Yes. Um, I'm kind of thinking that there's some contempt of court. Yes. Orders. Right. Where you issue court orders. Yes. But you didn't serve me. And that final dissolution of marriage, the decree of dissolution of marriage. Yeah. If it's anything different than the petition that I responded to, yes, it's going to end up in the United Nations court, yes. And then it's going to be the International Criminal Court of War Crimes. Now, for every cop that thought, well, let's see, you served me and arrested me at the same time. Yes. You put me in jail. I got out of jail. Yes, I did read the information in the actual petition for dissolution of marriage. It had no restraint provisions, no mental health evaluations or requirements. Yes. I responded, as any respondent should do. Yes. And then in that response, I had the expectation that you would serve me notice of settlement conference setting hearing. Yeah, but that never happened right now. That never happened. In fact, as far as I know, my wife lied about the United Nations marriage certificate. Yes, she lied about the stipulation and order. And it could be that the final, yes, decree of dissolution, yes, the findings and fact of law, yes, are very different than what I responded to. Ouch! Now, when I go to the United Nations, yes, I'm going to be suing nations. Ouch! Because the thought is that your family's just communicating your immunity from arrest and prosecution. Now, the individuals that are employed in the United Nations, I've emailed a lot of them. Yes. Now I want to know all of them since it was the League of Nations until the United Nations. Yes. And every location of every computer of the United Nations, every jump drive, poop! Every individual that receives their income from the contributing nations of the United Nations. And I want to know all of them, every one of them right now, because you seem to think it's a joke. See, if I'm right about this, yes, the only reason I wasn't served a dissolution of marriage, yeah, is the actual decree of dissolution of marriage is different than what I responded to. Boo. And when I make it a war crime, because I will, ouch! I will want to use the International Criminal Court. So I'd like to know all the employees, yes, of the ICC. Ouch! And then I'd like to know every employee of every branch, yes, agency, department, bureau, and division, yes, of the United Nations, yes, since they were the League of Nations.